Welcome. Hi, this is Carol from Skill Check, and I wanted to talk to you today about tips for preparing a vehicle for storage. And so I invited a really good friend of mine and a person that I admire greatly, also the former manager of the year for the Mini Storage Messenger, Jenny Rodriguez, and she's here. Hi, Jenny.
Aloha.
I'm so aloha. See, and that's sweet. So Ginny and I have some experience with this. So I thought it'd be fun to do together because when we were working at Waikele Self Storage, we had an area that was a helipad, and we turned it into a parking area. And there was really no lines, right, or anything. We just parked them out there. So it was a little challenging in a way, but most of our customers were military. So and we'll talk a little bit more about that, about how Jenny helped those people. But Jenny, so tell us a little bit about benefits of the indoor and outdoor parking.
Well, you do have different types of parking, the indoor and outdoor parking. So, as the slide shows, clearly vehicles that are stored inside of a facility are much more beneficial because it protects the vehicles from the outside environments and the elements, rain on the mainland, snow, hail, things, outside elements that could affect your vehicle. Everyone wants to park in a garage or inside. Additionally, parking indoors prevents it. There's a lower chance of vandalism or damage to your vehicle. It decreases the exposure of being parked outside. So in this slide, it does show outdoor parking, which depending on how secure your area is that you have the outdoor parking, it still could be a lot more secure than parking on the street.
They made this parking good because they angled it. Because otherwise, boy, it'd be hard to sometimes get in and out.
Very difficult.
Yeah. So
especially the aisleways in between are very narrow.
They are very narrow. I was looking at that thing again. Some of those cars aren't very big though. Do you notice?
Yeah.
A few, because there's a van there and a few, but I'm just saying a lot of I almost wonder if this is the US or not, because in Europe there's a lot of smaller cars than we have. We have on the mainland as well. You guys do too on Hawaii. You have big cars.
Everybody loves big trucks.
Yeah, big trucks there. Yeah, put all their friends in the back.
Yeah. But imagine getting a boat or RV into one of these stalls. That would be a nightmare.
Yeah, that would be tough. That would not be easy, right?
Nope.
Yeah.
Not at all.
So I think location is certainly important for, especially when you're talking like interior, it's going to protect the car from the elements, just like you would have it in your home garage or whatever. And then the exterior parking is just more exposed. Again, some people just have to, just because of the situation they're in, and they just have to park their car somewhere. But it does get some sun damage, so that can be problematic.
Jenny? So suggestions for customers storing cars. You always want to suggest that when they store the car, whether it's short-term, long-term, they do clean the car. Anytime you go and you have your car shipped, they require the same thing, that you got to bring your car in clean inside and outside. So it's a good idea to wash and wax your car to remove all dirt and to protect the paint. Vacuum the interior. That way it'll prevent it from pests and rodents.
It's the food, right? It's the food that people don't really realize that are in between the seats or whatever.
And when people are driving and eating, they drop something, they don't realize it because they're trying to pay attention to the road.
Yeah, so and it does attract the rodents, doesn't it?
Correct. Your windows. Clean the windshield wipers, especially if you park it for an extended period of time, and especially if it's outdoors with the heat, it will start making the rubber on the windshield wipers kind of brittle. So it's
Yeah.
good to place rags under there to protect it from sticking to the glass.
Yeah, here in Arizona, that's a real problem because there's so much high heat during our
Mhm.
summer, our 3 months of summer. I tell people get a cover. I mean, it's because it's brutal.
Yep.
You guys in Hawaii, it's maybe that's not so bad. Maybe or the
It's not as bad because our temperatures don't get that high.
ours would be 114, 112.
But if it sits there for months on end, once you go to start using the windshield wipers,
Yeah,
because it was sitting so long, it'll be brittle.
yeah.
So you'll definitely need to change it. But if you do steps to help prevent it, it won't be as bad.
Yes. Go ahead.
Your fuel, you want to fill the gas tank. That way it helps to prevent the moisture buildup in the fuel system. Also, adding a stabilizer does help prevent the fuel from degrading during storage. And it helps to protect your tank on your vehicle.
Jenny, I will say this is one of the most asked questions at like seminars and things like that when we're talking about storing cars, whether you have a full tank or an empty tank because of just the volatility of it or the, if there was a fire. And fire departments don't agree on this. Some of it because there's also, because if it's not a lot of gas in there, there are fumes.
I've heard both sides. I've
Yeah.
heard that the fumes are more flammable or more combustible than a full tank of gas.
Yeah, but when I looked this up, it did say the fuel system is better if you're leaving it for a long time to have more, fuel in the tank versus hardly any. So,
And when you think about it too, it'll start evaporating over time.
yes. Mhm.
So if you have a fuller tank of gas and you have it sitting for 6 months, a year,
Yeah.
when you come back, you won't have that full tank because the gas has evaporated,
Yeah.
but you'll still have gas in the tank. So it won't damage your tank.
Mhm. I think those fuel stabilizers help too. And I've had stores years ago that we had some of that there because we had a lot of this was in California because we had a lot of car storage, but we weren't selling anything for cars, and then we okay, let's do some stabilizer, let's do some other things. So we had a few people that took us up on it, but not so much. But it really should, even if you don't have it to sell at your store, if you have a lot of cars, then tell people about it for sure, right?
Yes, most definitely. It's something that you could get as a product for people to purchase, but it may sit on your counter.
Yeah.
But
Jenny, I'd
you'll
like
have that one or two.
you to talk about this because with Waikele self-storage, would you say 90% of our customers there were military or not quite that much?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
At Waikele Self-Storage, it was former munition bunkers in the mountainside.
Yeah.
It was used by the military years ago. So the military personnel get excited when they see it.
Yeah.
They love how it's developed.
Yeah.
And they feel at home because it was part of the military. So a lot of the military customers do come and store at Waikele Self-Storage.
Yeah.
Especially being in Hawaii, being on an island, we don't have much places to store. And we do have a large population of military members that do need to go and get deployed. So they do need to store their cars. So we do give them all these tips to help them. Mm-hmm. So when they come back in 6 months, a year, some of them several years, their car is still usable for them. It's still in good condition because they've washed their car, they've put in the stabilizers, they've disconnected the battery, things like that to help prevent any problems when they return.
Jenny, one of the things that I loved that you did for the military guys, not only did you, interact with them, like correspond with them and send them pictures and stuff like that, but the photos of their car, I think that was such a nice touch
Yes.
It's, and you guys were very good about keeping in touch with them and saying, hey, everything's going good. We're just checking in with you or whatever. That time that you took to do that with those, with people that are serving our country, I think they would be like always referring you, right? Or going back next time because
It's that small little extra step
yeah,
that gives them that sense of security, gives them that feeling that they matter. They're
yes,
miles and miles away.
way,
They're serving our country. They're there to protect us.
yeah,
The least we could do was do something like that and check
for
in
them.
with them regularly.
Yeah,
Just to, hey, how you doing? Everything's doing good here. Send them pictures of their car, send them
or
pictures of the area so that they know it's still okay. And
it's,
they know that we care. Even
yeah,
though they're not out of sight, out of mind,
yeah.
they're actually still in our minds. And
And I
they're
know
not
some of
just
you were just, chatting with them too, because they were, they have no one else to chat with.
I have many, many pen pals that were
Yes.
deployed,
Yeah.
and all it takes is 5-10 minutes
Yep.
out of your day
Yeah. It's
to do
not,
something like that. Reply to emails, send an email, and it goes a long way. It does.
I had a picture of really early on
Mhm.
in Waikele, but we did more to it and got it ready. But it used to be a helipad, but it was pretty unique and it's sort of out in the bush, if you will, a bit. But it really worked. And we look how they were doubled up here.
Mhm.
Because if they weren't moving them until after their deployment, then you're probably okay to do that. I don't think that works everywhere, but we had plenty of room. But that's what we had so far just lined off and numbered. So it was always a work in progress, wasn't it?
It always was. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
never ending, which is always a good thing
Yes,
because you never know what's going to happen the next day.
it's true. So Jenny, I think one of the issues is also just sometimes we don't realize, how long do the car batteries last? And, if they're left unattended, over time, it's going to lose that charge. Um, uh, having someone start it every couple of weeks would be good, but that doesn't always happen in storage, right? I mean, I think that would be, how often were you guys starting cars that they gave you keys to?
We would try every 2 weeks,
2 weeks, yeah.
to go out there and start it if we had the keys.
Yeah.
A lot of times we wouldn't have keys, so there were a handful that would leave it.
Right. But
Um,
that's okay too. I mean, it's their choice. But
yes,
again, there is, a bit, I would say there's a bit of liability having the keys there
yes.
and not so much turning it on or whatever, but it's, you never know. There might wanting to be joy riding or managers or
That was the big concern.
you never
And
know,
so
right?
we always would encourage them to disconnect their batteries.
Yes.
That way it doesn't kill the battery
Yeah.
while they're
If
gone.
they are going to run it, it's probably good to turn on the air conditioner, just seeing everything that's working properly. And, but again, it depends if you're just putting it there and leaving it or, I mean, I've had over the years some really, nice sports cars or classic cars where people would come in and sometimes they'd say, hey, we're going to be gone for 3 months, we're going on a trip and we're doing this and and can you start it up or whatever. And we've done that because it's otherwise and it's not something we would normally do, like go into their unit and whatever, but it worked out because it was an interior space.
Mhm.
I'm like, okay, well, just ask the managers, do you want to do it? Like they say yes, and then okay. Especially as if they're nice people in there.
We always carry jumper cables
Oh
at our
yes,
facility or
yeah,
a jump pack.
that's a really good point, isn't it?
Yes.
Because a lot of people don't have them.
No.
So I get, there are some suggestions. There are some things that you can do, and I had some stores in California where we had quite a few RVs and just regular cars. So we had a battery tender we would sell. They were not expensive, but again, we sold like 4 or 5 of them, not a lot, but the people that were like, oh, we don't even have to go somewhere to get it. This is awesome. And I don't know, we made like $10 on it, but it wasn't a lot, but it for sure for long-term storage, this is a great thing to have. And even for short periods, it will keep your battery charged and in good shape. So I think it's worth it if you're going to leave it.
A lot of times those extras aren't there to make money. It's always for convenience.
Convenience, yeah. So they don't go somewhere else, right?
Yes.
Yeah. How about these? What do you think about the brake chucks?
These are very good. Especially because when you park your vehicle, you're always taught from the beginning when you start learning to drive, use your emergency brake, your parking brake when you park your car. It's for safety, so your car doesn't start rolling, especially if you're on a hill. But when you're parking your vehicle for an extended period of time, the parking brakes can start freezing up, and it'll be hard because it won't start working properly. You might have a hard time releasing it when you come back after so many months. So it's actually better not to use your parking brake when you're storing the vehicle or leaving it parked for an extended
time. Yeah, and I think a lot of people wouldn't know that, right?
No.
Yeah, because you would think, oh, yeah, put the parking brake on, but that's not really, because it's engaging and it's all those problems that you can have. I think the other thing is with the tires. If you leave it for a long period, especially in places that are really hot, because the asphalt will get hot, or not asphalt, but what's the other, like a road? Well, anyway, whatever the customer is putting the tires on, it can get hot. It's just that's the way it is, especially if it's outside. But you want to be careful, because you'll see these spots where, again, it's going to be problematic. And you can put them on jacks. I've seen people put, cars, especially really nicer cars, on jacks to prevent these spots. So it can be a good thing for you.
When you think about it, also, all of that weight on all 4 tires at the same spot for an extended period of time, you will definitely lose air in your tire.
Yes.
So the jacks are always a good idea.
Yeah. And what about this?
You should definitely get an oil change. Check all your fluids in your car. Have it all fresh. Because it's going to be sitting for an extended period of time. If you have older fuel, older fluids in there, you have all those particles that have mixed in with it.
And they break down.
It starts settling, which will cause damage to the car and cause the car to break down or run rough. So it's always better to change the oil, change the fluids before you store it.
And then you could have, a big bill just trying to get the thing cleaned out, because that happened with my Prius that we just let sit for too long. And then it's like, okay, we've got a problem with all the fluids. The guy's like, did you ever run it? And just go out there? And I said, no, not really. Yeah. Oh, well, that's just life, right? I'm going to talk about this one because I have had this problem. This was in my Prius. I had pack rats in it. In the desert, we have all kinds of things like that. But when we opened up the hood, it looked like this, and it smelled weird too. And they brought all kinds of things from the little beans that come off of our Palo Verde trees. All that kind of stuff was in there, and it was so hard to get all of that stuff out, and just to be able to turn it. I said, don't turn it on yet. We got to get all this stuff out before. And then I said, oh, we need gloves, because I think, these are rats, or right, pack rats that are in there. So I'm like, we need gloves. We need, it was just a mess, right? Oh my gosh. I don't know what to say. It's no fun.
Always find places that are not touched. They want areas that they won't be bothered, where they can enjoy
It's safe.
themselves, rest, and they feel safe.
Yep.
So if it's someplace that if your vehicle isn't going to be touched for a long period of time and there are pests and rodents in the area, they're going to notice that your vehicle is a nice home and hotel for them.
Yes. So all of those, but I love this because it says place rags in the exhaust pipes, to keep them from going in that, because it's just like a hallway into the inside the car, right? And then if you've eaten in the car, they start coming in because of, they know that there's food in there. Yesterday I was cleaning my car out and I was like, what is this from? Someone else must have driven and then there was some food stuff because I don't like that. Yeah. And the Coco, I was with my dog and she was smelling it. I was like, what are you smelling after? I'm like, oh, there's a little piece of food down there. So
When I used to work at a car rental for several years, a
yes.
lot that we had are overflow vehicles. Sometimes it would sit for months on end, or the new vehicles come in.
Yeah.
They would always have to go and reconnect the batteries. But what was always common was finding kittens
Really?
in the engine area.
Wow.
And the cats would go and put their babies up to hide them.
Is that
to protect
so they
them.
don't get eaten or
Yeah.
Wow. I
So-
never thought about that. You'd turn it on and there you go, kitty.
Yes. So
Something
it was a
bad.
protocol where we had to
Ooh.
walk past the cars, kind of like tap them just to hear if you hear any movement or
And would you
hear
open
any
the hood
sounds, and
too, if
open
you
the
thought-
hood
yeah.
before we get in there. So we started disconnecting batteries just so that everybody would open the hood, reconnect it before we started,
Yeah.
in case there was something in there.
Yeah, because the critters get in there one way or another. But
Mhm.
again, if you want some ventilation, but again, I don't know. With all of these things to think about, especially if it's going to be there a long time, you just can't just let it forever go and not ever look. And I think as a storage person, if we have some and the customer would let us open it up and look, it wouldn't hurt.
Mhm.
Right. So.
And car covers don't prevent them from
Right.
getting in there.
Yeah. It kind of keeps the sun off and everything, but
Yeah.
that kind of gets us
There we
to
go.
selling the covers. But look, you could go right underneath or through the exhaust is where they go. And
Yeah.
it's even better. They're probably like even happier.
It's nice and cooler for them.
Yeah. It's just like ideal. But I will say, having these, you can get them fairly inexpensively too, through different vendors in self storage, is to get car covers that you could sell at the store. Another way that you can make money, and you don't have to go up on them a lot, but if at least they have something right there, and they don't have to go to another store to get it and then come back, and it's just better if you have something like that there. And if they really, some types of, you might not have one for every car type, but people that have really expensive cars, they have custom ones anyway. So when I found this, I was like, wow, somebody put a car capsule together, or a car bubble, and I looked it up online, and it's $489 just to have this. But you know what? I will say there are probably some cars that I've seen in storage that could have used this because they were $500,000 car, or something like that, where the person wouldn't mind. But I think that, it has to have electricity to it, right? So that's the other issue. And there are some storage places that have electricity for RVs and, things like that. So within the space. So it certainly could be done. If someone says, hey, I've got a classic car, you can tell them about the car bubble, because it might be at least another option for them if they were worried about putting it in your storage property. I think,
Yes.
at least. So what do you think, Jenny, about managing car tips?
So you just want to make sure that you check the area. For managers, it's best to walk around, make sure there isn't anything that could affect cars. Sometimes you have those, I would say, I'm trying to look for the right word to call them,
Yeah.
troublemakers, so to speak,
Yes.
that when they see a bunch of vehicles like that, they're rascal people and they'll dump nails on the ground or,
Yeah.
different things that can damage vehicles.
Right.
So it's checking the parking areas, checking the pavement, also walking around looking for suspicious things,
Hmm.
making sure people don't try and break in.
Yeah.
Um, and because when someone comes and stores their car with you, they're doing it not because they want to, but because they have to. They don't have
Yes.
the space at home.
Right.
They're leaving for extended periods of time.
Yeah.
So they're entrusting you with their vehicle.
And I bet we have a lot of people like that are in your situation where you have a military bases around you and they have to do something with their cars if they're going to be gone for 6 months or a year or whatever. They have nowhere else to put it. So then they're looking for a good storage place to keep it. And I think if we even offer maybe a handout so managers could make their own handouts and
Mhm.
for here's some suggestions you can use some that we had here for tips for getting it ready, and people like that. People would
Yes.
rather hear and they might not think about some of the things that we would suggest. And then I think maybe even offering some things in the office to sell might as well for
Which
if
is
you have
what
lots
we
of cars.
did. We
Yeah.
did our research and we came up with a suggestion sheet for suggestions for storing your car.
Yeah.
And we do hand that to people just when they come and inquire
Yeah.
about storing a car.
Yeah.
Even if they're not storing with us, we still hand it to them
Right.
because
Because
it's
then,
things that they should know that people
yes.
don't know.
Well, and if you still have all your information on it, they'll think, well, we should go to that place at, YK Lake because it's easier or whatever.
Yeah.
So it makes it really nice. Well, Jenny, thank you so much for taking the time to talk about this because I knew with how many cars, how many did we end up at YK Lake at the highest, do you think?
Oh, I can't remember. There were a
100?
lot. It was a big area.
Was it 100 or so?
I think it was more.
I think so too. It's over
Yeah.
100. But that when you start getting that many, it's a lot. But we had that helipad area, and we had enough. Well, you could send up one picture, you could see that we had a lot. But I think what you did and why I wanted you on this is because not only did you do a good job with the cars, but you also let the customers know, especially these military customers, know that their stuff was safe. And remember, we had that Tesla dealer too. You
Yeah.
remember that they had the Tesla dealer would put the new cars down there. They didn't have enough space on where they were selling them, so they would come down and switch out the colors or whatever. That we would have several. So it really is nice that your experience of this, and having to have a lot of cars and a lot of people that not around, and the way that you communicated with the guys, and to me that would made so much sense, and it made it more than just car storage. You guys made that connection with the
They
people.
really appreciated it.
Yes, they appreciate.
There was also an incident where there's a small little river next to it that
Yeah.
overflowed.
Yeah.
And so it was taking photos or emailing customers, also letting them know, hey, your vehicle's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because it would really run through there, wouldn't it? I mean, when
Yes.
we had downpours
It would
of
flood.
rain there, it'd be like, it was beautiful trickling little brook. And then when it rains, it's like, holy, where did all that, that water come from? But it was amazing. And at least, and we did have a little bit of stuff come off as far as, but overall, it was good. And I really think I appreciate what all you did because it showed me that, car storage is not just about storing their car. It's that touch that you had with those military people and the people that were gone or off the island that to me made so much of a difference for the customer's happiness and the car's safety.
Yes.
I guess that's the way to say it. So, but I think, Jenny, when you're talking about as long as you've been in self-storage, how long have you been in storage?
uh, almost 25 years.
Jeez, Louise. That's a long time, isn't it?
Very
This is my
long.
40th year.
See.
And we knew I've known you all that time,
Yeah.
but I'm so proud of all the things you've done and your ability to get in there and love customers and to, enjoy this business. And it's, you've done other things in life, but you keep coming back to
I
storage,
keep coming back. I
which
keep
is
coming
awesome.
back. I
Especially
try to get out. I try to switch
I know you
careers,
did. I know you
but
did.
even though I tried to switch, I still kept up with storage
Yes.
and
And that's
came back full time.
came
I
back.
can't get away.
But
It's
I'm
never a
glad you
dull
did.
moment. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's rewarding.
And it's the people too, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening and aloha, right, Jen?
Aloha.
Aloha. And see you next time.